due to ongoing events, I've been curious as to how many exactly there were at the what the level you would expect it to be for dragons to exist in the world of fairy tale for it to be a healthy number. We know humans, it seems to be pretty much set for the most part as just like general population you'd expect for countries. I know Fiore has a population of like 60 million, and we don't really have much for the other locations, but it's like obviously, we probably have a couple billion people across the whole planet. And a lot of the smaller races we don't have relatively anything on. We know at least for the Aetherius there were tens of thousands of them at some point, but with the dragons, the most we can really say when it comes to raw number is the 10,000, unknown plus that were coming through the Eclipse Gate at the time of the end of the Grand Magic Games. And the reason why I think it's important to know that specifically, for one, right now, again, we don't know how many dragons are required for it to, be a healthy, plentiful amount for the continuation of their species. If Ignia only needs, say, like a couple thousand and then let them loose out in the world, I really don't think that it would be that difficult to even reach that number, because you really only need probably like one town, like one decent sized town, and you're going to get enough people that you require. But from the events of the Grand Magic Games, we know that Future Rogue was having 10,000 plus dragons come through the Eclipse Gate. And we can't say 100% for sure if this was all the dragons that were alive at this point. I personally would say these were the dragons that were more so on the side of being anti-human. And one of the reasons is all the ones that we got from, like, in, actually talking, we got dialogue from, weren't very, they didn't seem to be pro-human much at all. The only one that had any form of stance that seemed to be shiftable over to them was Atlas Flame. But personally, I think Atlas Flame, I think it was more so that he was kind of doing his own thing, and though he did have his allegiance and loyalty ultimately to Igneal, it's not like he's going to run into Igneal all the time, and this could have been a period in between where, maybe he hadn't switched over to being more so like, oh yeah, humans are all right, because it was clearly before Acnologia's big rampage, because the dragons were so plentiful, they're not living on PTSD of this dragon slayer coming after them. But when you go with that, I think it's safe to assume that if this is a side that is anti-human, we don't know the exact numbers. We just know that there were more dragons that were more like they were more so on the side of keeping humans as essentially cattle than the dragons that wanted to live in coexistence with them. The easiest way for me, I would say, is just to say if 10,000 is one side, 50% the other one, you maybe have 15,000 dragons or so total. I don't think that's really that insane when you go off the scope of probably how many dragons existed in the world over the amount of land that we now know, and that there is at least one more continent that hasn't been really explored. And on top of that, there are countries that we've never really that we know of that we've never really had any explanation or exploration or explanation into. What is it, the Pengard Kingdom? I know that's one that's on Ishgal, and we have zero information on it, but it's gigantic. It's the biggest one, the biggest kingdom and country on the continent. But I don't even think we've ever had it mentioned or named on panel. So maybe that would be a thing in the future, because they could house a lot of dragons. I had this idea for like a plot point in the post game a long time ago, but I mean, it looks like now we might actually have a chance for it. Is that people house dragons? They're like WMDs in their world, where it's like, how many dragons can we get in our country? That's how they kind of measure their weapon system, because that would make a lot of sense, because in most cases it would be capable of just kind of running over most wizards, and that would make dragon slayers way bigger of a thing within the series. Maybe once we get the next gen. But as it were, I think if these were the numbers, say 15,000, it would make complete sense if whatever Ignia's got going on he only needs, say, like 1 or 2 towns. Like if he's already got the numbers that he needs turned permanently into, you know, dragon altered people, and that will eventually become full dragons, and then go out and create and produce more dragons that will get the verse and everything, just get the world kind of going. Because the thing too, I don't think Natsu or any of Diablos are just gonna hunt down anybody that is turned into a dragon. My guess is if we get a period where the Dragon Slayers are out hunting dragons, it's going to be on dragons that are more negative, like immediately. Like say it's, you know, we get like a next gen series, and it's like 20 years later, 15 years later. There, you know, any dragons that get out now and are cool until then, they just kind of keep to themselves. They would be logically left alone, because none of the characters, I don't think any of the characters really would go out of their way to like aggressively go after some guy that's just turned into a dragon, freaking out, confused. They're not going to be like, let's just put you down. Because even Kyria, I don't think Kyria would be that, you know, cold-hearted and cruel, especially now, to where they don't really have the room to, you know, be cold-blooded killers, especially if you have a scenario where a lot of the people are confused and not in their full control. So, as it were, it could very well be enough already that the world is going to be shifted as events for the current arc go on. We'll see. I'll just have to check back on this. But I think going at the numbers, like I said, 15,000, somewhere around that, maybe even a little less, like 13,000, maybe even a little bit more, to like 17 to 18,000 dragons in total. It's something that, and on top of that, it would really fit into the scope of the concept of dragons, where each one is going to have relatively a good amount of territory that isn't going to intermingle too much with other dragons, just because they don't seem to be a species that has a, you know, there are instances of them grouping in in remote small locations, but it doesn't seem to be the norm. It seems way more so that most of the dragons kind of keep to themselves and don't really intermingle with each other. Some do, but most don't seem to be looking for that kind of, you know, camaraderie. So we'll see. I'm hoping not long after this video we'll get a little bit more information on what exactly is going on with Igneous plans towards the success rate of you know, resaturating the world of dragons, as he said, but what exactly he needs left in order to complete what he's doing, or what needs to be done in order to stop it. Because one thing, and you know, this is one thing I've brought up recently, is he hasn't had any form of moment where he's like, oh no, my plan, you know, it's success is in the risk now. It doesn't seem to be that case. I'm wondering if it's like, well, there's no pretty much loss after, like, there, you know, a certain point of people turn into dragons, because it looks like some people are just turned, but we'll see if anybody left gets altered or saved or turned back, or what exactly the plan is going to be with this. So talk to you guys in the next one. Tell me in the comments what other kind of topics you would like to hear. We just did one on second generation dragon slaying on God Slayers, and I just wanted to do one again on the idea of how many dragons there were in the verse. You know, at the I would say the most plentiful time, because it's not like you're gonna have millions and millions all over, and maybe in the future, but as of right now, I would say this is the best gaugement like of where we're at. But anyway, other than that, talk to you guys in the next one.